who stood with you
Yes,
in the
yes,
church.
yes, yes, yes. That's my attorney.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine, my brother. I'm fine.
My brother, I want to tell you that continue the fight you are doing. Just as I told that officer who is the security man, as well as the police,
Yeah.
if you want to lock him up, lock me up too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They
Yes, sir.
can't touch you. You did nothing wrong. I have to notice for the past 2 days after, they did absolutely nothing towards you.
Yes, sir.
My
Yes,
brother,
sir.
you stand tall, stand fast. And I want to also say to my political leader, a pleasant good night, Honorable Kamala Prasad, Professor, who celebrated 12 years yesterday of great leadership. And to show her great leadership, today also marks the 1-year anniversary where we defeated the People's National Movement with the Arima Central seat, where Sheldon Garcia won that seat hands down. We also won back the Kadupia seat. We won back the seat which was under the Princess Song seat, right? The St. Mary's seat, right? So when they say the UNC and the leader cannot win anything, you beat them there, you beat them back.
Yes, sir.
And in a month's time, in fact in 2 weeks' time rather, we will win back the Davis South seat hands down.
Davis South. Davis
So I
South.
want to tell all those people who say Kamala can't win an election, they must see all the elections that we won. And all those people on that so-called cabal page, they're calling them out tonight.
Yeah.
Huh? If your name man, call, put all your name there. Put all your name. I want to see all your name. So they like to say, okay, about me, about everybody else. Put all your name now. I want to see who you are. Don't hide behind a name called the cabal. Don't hide. Come out. I want to see you. I want to see who you are.
Yeah.
Because you think it's like my name. You think it's okay to other people too. Right? And all those things. All it does, it gives me great publicity. Right? As far as I'm concerned. Because they are not a bunch of cowards. They're not a bunch of fools and cowards. You're a bunch of cowards. Victor?
Yes, sir.
Stand tall. You know I'm your brothers here.
Yes, sir.
I
All the
stand
time.
with you. And I stand strong with you.
Yes, sir.
And as you notice, you're politically
Yes, sir.
stand tall to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Man, attorney at law, stand tall at the whole of justice, and fix the thing. Welcome, caller, inside. Caller, I had to cut you off. You had to low down your volume, otherwise you will burst our eardrum. You have to low down the radio.
Yes.
Welcome, caller.
Hello?
Hello, caller. Welcome.
No appearance. Drop it.
Hello.
Yes. This one. 218-7762. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, good night.
Yes.
Yes, caller. Good night.
Where are you going to?
Fine, fine, fine. Like chili
Right.
baby.
Actually, baby, I have 2 things to say. Are you following the situations coming out of England with regards to the Prime Minister Boris Johnson?
No, I am not.
Right. But you know, you're familiar with what happened and why they want him out.
Yes,
And
I was hearing that they want to prefer charges against him. I was hearing a lot of things, but I'm not following.
Right. Well, today it was revealed that there will be a police investigation in the matter now. Now, the reason why I highlight that, it just goes to show the difference in how countries are run.
Right.
Because here we have a situation there where a prime minister in England was telling people to quarantine and do this and that, but yet he apparently, and I use that term guardedly, apparently was keeping party and them things. But he has been held to account for it. And the media spearheading the chase, right?
Right.
Look how quickly that happened. Look how quickly they were able want to press charge. It's a police investigation now, and they have an independent officer who would be giving a revelation tomorrow on the matter. You see how quick, how swift, how quick the arms of justice are in these countries to bring politicians and people in high office to account.
Right.
Now, the reason why I mention all that, look at this issue with this boat that going on now. We can't get no proper clarity on what happening with that. Nobody ain't get charged yet. Who's saying is who? I think the police commissioner talk some nonsense there about how they're still investigating something. When you listen to this, you really realize that there's a concerted effort to cover up things, to cover up, and all also with regards to this police commissioner issue, right? I mean, in any other country in the world, either the prime minister or the president would have get impeached or would have to resign or something. There's no escaping in that.
Correct.
Interfering in a process that is supposed to be independent.
Correct.
Right? So when you have things like that happening, you have to ask the question, where are we going as a country?
Yeah.
Where are we going as a country? And the prime minister is on record when he office are saying, as a matter of fact, before when Mr. Manning was doing that, if the prime minister can call the cabinet to order, then go ahead.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Correct.
So where we really going as a country when we can't hold the leaders in the country to account? This we have let me tell you something. We have an out of control attorney general, out of control a runaway horse, and nobody seems. The prime minister seems to be able to do nothing to curtail this man. This man should be removed from office a long time. And that is the charge and the allegations against him, which is children having firearms. Right? That alone is sufficient was sufficient to remove him from office.
Correct.
But yet, they are the ones who want to pass down laws and legislation on people. What kind of country are you really running?
A 2x4.
What kind of country are you running?
A 2x4. Thank you, Kola. And Kola, you are right. And that is the difference with these international countries where accountability and transparent is flourishing. We are in a country in Trinidad and Tobago where there is no independent institution that is not contaminated by the political directorate. We have a commissioner of police that is appointed directly by the politicians of this country. We have a president who allow herself to be interfered with, who allow her office to be contaminated with the political directorate. We had a police service commission who also allow themselves to be contaminated by the political directorate. We have some daily newspapers and some media houses who ought to be independent, who are also contaminated by the political directorate. We have some independent senators who ought to be the checks and balance in our parliament, and they too are contaminated by the political directorate. There is no justice in this country.
Wow.
Welcome, caller.
Hey, Victor, sorry to call back, right?
Go ahead, caller.
But and what the caller was just talking about with Boris Johnson, maybe I can give you some further information on it.
Yes, sir.
So Boris Johnson, who is the Prime Minister of England,
This is Attorney Brian, Trinidad and Tobago. Go ahead, Brian.
right? So it has been alleged that number 10 Douglar Street, which is the office of the Prime Minister, had COVID parties. And it was shown that it was a breach of all the regulations, which he, as the Prime Minister, would have led forward in the House. And the opposition, the Labour Party, which I am very much affiliated and I know all of them, and they brought it to the House. And his answer was, well, we didn't know that that could be done. Where it led to the Labour Party asking what you call the London Constabulary to take an investigation upon this. So I understand that there is an investigation that has been laid, right? I don't know about the charges yet, but this just shows we had a Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago came and said, well, you know, when I was in Tobago,
Drink beers.
I went and drink a beer in public. And ha ha ha, ha ha
Yeah,
ha,
that's the
he
end.
he. Nothing said. Where's I would have expected that there's an investigation done there. But let it be me or you that want to have a beer in public. What's supposed to happen to me? Sad for having alcohol consumption in public.
But Brian, I want to ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Is there any form of judicial review or any sort of mitigation that I can bring as a private citizen against the Prime Minister for the breach of that COVID-19 protocol?
I don't think so, but I can always check that for you, my friend.
Yes, my friend. Check
Right.
that, because I believe that the Prime Minister need to be held account.
Well, you know, as you say that, as you know, you had a nice little sergeant who came and said you were breaking the law.
Right.
So I said, officer, when you charge the Prime Minister for breaking the law, then you will charge Victor Roberts.
And let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, what I forget. Brian, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You know that I was not allowed to use the urinal at the Hall of Justice?
Wow. That is ridiculous.
It just shows, my brother, the distance that these people will go. But coming out of that, I need you to look into that matter where the Prime Minister, not on only one occasion, the Prime Minister, while they were charging people for not wearing masks, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health, they were not wearing masks even when people were being charged. We
But I will
see...
definitely look at it.
Yes,
I
sir.
will check it out for you. But I will tell you even further. When that so-called head of security, I'm going to tell you how I dealt with him. When the sergeant came down with him, he said that you were disrupting things at the Hall of Justice. And I said, well, my client, according to the head of security, saying that he is disrupting. He said, I never said that. I said, all right, partner. You see you? You're a damn blasted liar.
I heard that.
So I will no longer talk to you.
I heard
will
that
talk
when
to
you
the
walk
police
off.
directly.
Yeah, I heard
and
that.
as far as I'm concerned, this is our police matter. And I will talk to the police. You see you?
Yeah.
Go back inside and be security inside.
Yeah, correct.
And when I told the officer, I said, this man, I said, show me where he's breaking the law. There's something called summary offenses. Find the law. Show me the law. He said, my work is a drug. I said, no, why? Because you don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, with all due respect to you, you are a ranking officer because you call me sergeant. You say, I am the sergeant.
Yeah.
I said, you are a ranking officer. You ain't no constable. You ain't no SRP. I said, how could you say that you ain't going to have this conversation with me?
Yeah.
I said, well, an officer, you charge accordingly. He
Yeah.
said, I'm going to go upstairs and make a call. I said, you make your call now, man. And he never come back downstairs.
Yeah, yeah, dismissed.
So let me tell you something. First World nations operate first world style. You saw where a prime minister is alleged of breaching rules that he brought to the parliament. And when he was caught, found one thing, he came to the parliament in England and began to remove certain restrictions. With the issue of masks, the issue of vaccine, although I am in favor of taking vaccines, but he took away the issue of telling people, well, you need to take this, you don't need to take it. But you have a government here who clearly is making rules and regulations and breaking their own rules and regulations. I don't want to take up much of your time, but I will say my two last points.
Yeah.
The first last point is that you have a minister of health who every day talking about the central block of the hospital, the central block of the hospital. I said the UNC didn't build it. Well, boss, Shanghai construction tell you, hey, we pulling out. That's not a COVID cough, it's a dry throat. So guess what? As far as I am concerned, Sarah Diaz thing needs to go
Yeah, yeah.
because of that. And finally, you see what's happening with the Mosquito Creek.
Yes, of course.
And in the words of Dr. Ruda Amuelas, it breaking up like biscuit.
Yeah.
It breaking up.
Yeah.
Rohan Srinan needs to go.
The whole of this government needs to go.
I'll say even further. Prime Minister fails to act. Prime Minister, either you go or call an election now. My brother, take care. Have
Thank
a good
you.
night. Cocky, have a good night, my
Yes,
brother.
sir. All the best.
Thank
sir.
you, blessing. All
But-
right, Koki.
But why would the Prime Minister do that and then say he did that?
Because the Prime Minister, Koki of Trinidad and Tobago, is a stranger to the truth. That's all. We have proof of him being a stranger. After the score, we'll take the break.
Yes, all right.
Welcome, caller.
Good night, brother Victor.
Good night,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yeah, how you doing?
I know that voice. Good.
Yeah,
I know that
yeah.
voice. I know that voice.
Yeah, man, I want to congratulate you for the stand that you take there on the step of the whole of justice.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you,
Yeah,
my brother.
that is true bravery, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what happened in England there, what you have to hold this Prime Minister against is that, remember, I think it was last year or year before Easter, where he said that Tobago was the place to go and took, I think that about 60,000 went to Tobago.
Yeah.
Right.
The beach
So
party.
he broke the law there,
Yeah.
right? So you see how it is different here
Because
to out there.
we run a 2x4 country here where the Prime Minister and those in authority could do what they want. It's one law for them and the next law for us.
Exactly, different strokes for different folks.
Yes, that is what's happening, brother.
Yeah, and that is where the people come in. That is why the people had to stand up for all these kind of nastiness were taking place.
Of course.
You understand? And the quicker the people stand up, including myself, and get rid of this thing that taking place, we ain't going anywhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We just going down the barrel of a gun. Yeah. Well, you have a wonderful night and all the best, man. Take care.
Thank you, my brother, and you be safe also. We go for the break, and when we come back, we'll take some more calls.
Since a small is one thing I'm hearing. Sacrifice for the country's sake. You ban your belly if the burden you're bearing. How much a pressure for people to take.
Network. Local Palooza Show and Countdown on MCTV. The Local Palooza Show and Countdown. Now showing on MCTV. Douglar Radio is now on U97.5 FM Hot Like Pepper Multicultural Radio, Monday to Friday, 6:15 p.m. to 9 p.m. with Anil Roberts, bringing you the facts on politics and up-to-date information. Also taking your calls on 218-7762. Douglar Radio on U97.5 FM Hot Like Pepper Multicultural Radio, 6:15 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday.
Get ready for the revolution. Come on, what you say?
Sponsored by Royal Castle.
Welcome back. Yes. Well, caller, you is the best. You time this advertisement, caller. You time this advertisement. Welcome.
Yeah, but what? I like me, Royal, Mr. Roberts
Yes,
and Corky.
That is
Yes.
timing. That is
Royal
timing.
Castle.
All right, listen to this. Let me give you some timing with my analysis about the Police Service Commission and the ill-fated appointment of Gigi and the merit list. Listen to this. This is my analysis, and I think it's very, very instructive. Today on the newspaper, he had 4 names: Gigi, Norton, Francis, and Christopher. Right? Your partner told you I wasn't on it. Now, what they did do for Dulalchan, and they didn't want Dulalchan, so they went through a protocol, and eventually his name came up, and they appointed him. Now, the vaccine vagrant pulled that list because no way on that list had Tojam.
Well, he said he didn't apply for the job, you know. Remember?
Right.
Right. He said he didn't
Beautiful.
apply. Yeah.
Right, beautiful. It's the same thing. His name wasn't on the list.
Right, of
So
course.
they couldn't go to Parliament for that because the 4 names on it, they don't want them to.
No. They wanted
So,
somebody
they-
who they could control. They wanted, a
Yeah.
matter of fact, let me fix it for you. They wanted a PNM.
Right. The thing is, those 4 names, don't matter what the list had. Once they don't want somebody who they could puppetize and play on a puppet, they couldn't use the Lantern protocol.
And that is why the list was intercepted in the first place, because they didn't want to on the
Because-
list.
And they did everything to mash up the place.
They had
and-
to mash it up in order to withdraw the list
To get
who they wanted.
to Dingole.
Yes.
And the thing is, as I tell you all, the memoirs of O'Halloran must be published. They're doing Eric Williams somewhere up in England now. So when they do the memoirs of O'Halloran, we go see that this play they're making there is in the appendix, you know. How to mash up a police thing. By the way, let me talk to the next Prime Minister about the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and the best ever Prime Minister ever did, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bissessa. Let me tell you how I am so enthused with what she is doing. She is cleaning house and building an organization with young, old, competent, and representative of all of us in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. Of every class, every creed, and every
Creed and
race. Don't
The
forget to
thing
say it.
I like what she did. She analyzed her 5 years, and she have gotten rid of some of the Nimakaram who was undermining her. And I know that for a fact. And don't ask me where I find out. They were undermining her, some of the MPs. And you see where they have gone now. They have become nasty. And you know, some gentlemen, some men can't work with women as their boss. It had a lot of them in the UNC. Always feel they are superior to women. And that is why I won't call them. You know why I won't call them? Because the people, they listen to the program, they will know who talking, and they will know, because some of them, she did the right thing. And I like this set of people she has around her now.
You have to plan for the future. When we are no longer around here, you have to have the young ones to carry on. They
Correct.
can't be selfish.
Correct.
You understand? And some of them want to hold the hog, mind the hog, hold the hog, and kill the hog and eat it. They don't want to share it at all. No, some of them real selfish, you know. I don't want to call name. If you call name, I go whistle.
Right, good. Thank you very much, Kola. And Kola, let me tell you something. I make it quite clear. Anytime they attack Kamla Prasad Bisesa, let me tell you something. I deal with them because I know them and I ain't fear them. And I just deal with facts. I don't deal with fiction. So I have no problem. Come in, Kola, welcome. Right, I missed this one. Kola, try back. I know them, they was undermining, and half of them who undermining now, they flourish. A matter of fact, them who undermining now is who caused Kamla Prasad Bisesa to get bad name. You hear what I'm saying? Them is who caused Kamla to get bad name. Them wicked devils and them. Welcome, Kola.
Mr. Robert,
Yes, sir.
you see, one thing with Mrs. Kamala Prasad, because as an opposition, when they water down a bill that they bring here, she doesn't go to court to test it, you know. But the judges have to stand up and say, it's not a good bill, because she's going to put pressure on it. And when people must understand these things, she don't bring people to just mama guide them on the street and jumping up here and jumping up there. Stay home, do your work, and be clear. Take your vaccine, she just tell you. You know what hurt me? Point 14, Labray, and the west and the east in San Fernando. They're developing to get a university. You know, this Mrs. Kamala Prasad cut the cake and she given east, west, north, and south a very equal share. And them south people, the Guaya could have go to that college, university, and go home. They didn't have to pay a rent. The people from the Caracas could have come and go to the university and go home. They didn't have to pay a rent. From Mayaro, to Toco, to Princeton, to Rio Claro, to San Fernando, to Marabella, to Chaguanas, all these people from, even from Diego Martin here, we could have sent the children and they coming home because it's highway straight to come and go. And you know, people, the oil money coming from down there, the pitch lake money coming from down there, and we building the north, and we making the 1% happier than we. I don't like to say that because I respect them.
Right.
And when we, the citizens, could mind and see how Mrs. Kamala Prasad has balance. You know, when she come down here in the West, you know, I had a lady named Miss Hazelbaum.
Yes, Miss Hazelbaum used to be on a program.
Right, and she tell Mrs. Kamala, you want to win, you have to give me $50 million to the alleged, to $10 million if you want to win the next election. And she didn't give them it. She stand up for each and every single citizen. You know, I was telling you I was coming, right? And the guy who had us hired to come, he went San Fernando and I couldn't come.
All right.
And the next thing, when you stand up underneath the national flag of Trinidad and Tobago, no police. All you have to say, every creed and race, find an equal place. I standing under this flag with respect. Don't touch me, sir. Don't touch me. Put them in the place. Have a blessed and wonderful night to you and Mr. Coakley and to Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Kola. And I want to add that as the Kola say, the percent the Kola talk about. Mr. Gregory Aboud. Mr. Gregory Aboud. I spoke through social media, hoping that you get the message. And it seems as though you ain't get the message. So sometime next week, Mr. Aboud, I am going to come and look for you. Because I heard you speak through a platform where you said that the government mash up the procurement legislation simply because they do not want to be held accountable. I agree. I also said, don't cry no crocodile tears. And the reason why I said that, sir, is because I am certain that documentation was sent to you in the form of a petition seeking and soliciting your support while the opposition was on that campaign to have and to hold the government accountable for watering down that piece of legislation. I heard you say, Mr. Aboud, that people in the city, they are not safe. And why would they want to sleep where they are not safe? I said to you, Mr. Aboud, that if you are serious about holding this government accountable, I ask you with respect to shut down the city, to shut down the stores. As the head of Derma, I ask you to take the necessary action for this government to be pressured into calling an election. Mr. Aboud, you are saying that the people in the city, that they are not safe. I want to put you on notice tonight, Mr. Aboud, that while you are saying that those in the city are not safe, if the government continue on this trend, you may very well find, Mr. Aboud, that nobody in this country would be safe. Because when you take away food from the mouth of the most vulnerable in society, those who we refer to as the URP and CPEP workers, I am saying to you, sir, that no one would be safe from crime in this country. I want to say to you, Trinidad and Tobago, that we must stand up in our own communities. Those areas where we are strong, and shut down, put down all tools, and bring this country to a standstill in your own community. The police in this country, some of them, they have taken a position to brutalize you with a joy. I have a lot of friends within the protective services. And I'm saying to you that they are displeased with the use of tear gas on our men, women, and children. While you have a prime minister who seeks to defend that type of brutalism, while you have a security minister who puts his tongue between his teeth with his European suit and look like a chimpanzee, while you have a commissioner, an acting PNM commissioner in office who will agree, who will disseminate every aspect, every instruction, whether it be lawful or unlawful, to brutalize its citizen, to bring you into subjection in order not to object about the way in which our country and those who have the responsibility to govern and to bring policies that will enhance and develop the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, I am saying to you tonight, do not allow yourself to be brutalized. Do not expose yourself and put yourself in harm's way for those who have pleasure in brutalizing you to commit the same act against you in the future. You must be wise. We must develop strategies. We must utilize strategies in order to defend ourselves and to defend our country from those who intend to brutalize and to bring this country to naught. Stand up in your own community where you are strong, and let us bring this country to a standstill. Let me say it again. Stand up in your own constituency and bring this country to a standstill, and send a message to the political directorate that we will not allow ourselves to be brutalized, that we will not allow our democracy to die, that we will be the defenders of our constitution. Where the president fails, we must take over. Where the president fails, we must uphold. Where the president fails, ladies and gentlemen, the citizens of this country must stand for democracy and stand and defend what we call our sacred constitutional rights. You have seen their intention. They will stop at nothing to remain in power. But the greatest power in this country, it is people's power. And people's power must be utilized in a strategic way where we will be able to protect our citizens from the brutalization of any corrupt government. Our fight is not with the police. Our fight is not with the soldiers. Our fight is not with the protective services. They too will feel the blunt of this government. When you allow a government to destroy democracy, there is few within the protective services that will benefit. They will be paid handsomely because they are the ones that they will use to keep us in check and to suppress any form of democratic right to exist amongst the citizens of this country. So our fight is not against them. Our fight in this country, it is for democracy. When I stood at the Hall of Justice, I chose the Hall of Justice because when you look at justice, it can be defined and it can be symbolized as a woman with a blindfold, with a sword walking in a direction, with a scale in her hand, and as she wears justice, she walks steadfastly with a sword, cutting every form of injustice away from the root. So I choose the Hall of Justice, and I beg the Creator from my heart to stretch his hand over this country and root up every form of corruption, root up every form of injustice, root up every form of nepotism, root up every form of fashion of those who intend to trample upon the democracy of the people of this country. People, you must understand that you are special. You must understand that you have the breath of life in your body for a purpose. The Creator expects you to stand for fairness and justice in every situation. We, ladies and gentlemen, we must stand for what is right, and we must condemn what is wrong. What this government continue to perpetrate against its citizens, it is time that we as citizens stand up and defend our democracy. Welcome, caller.
Good night, sir. This is Sandra Mangal. I was supposed to tell you before when I called. There is no water in Kelly Village.
No water in Kelly Village.
Yes, so I forget to tell you, so I'm sorry about that.
No problem, no problem.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So, Wassa, Kelly Village, have no water, Wassa. Water is life, Wassa. Water is energy, Wassa. Water is cleanliness, Wassa. Give the people some water Wassa, turn the valve. Hear the man say, turn the valve. Koki, I must tell you this.
Yes.
Recently, a man tell me, he said, boy,
Yeah.
I will tell you after this call.
All right.
Welcome, caller.
Welcome.
Load on your radio, caller.
Yeah.
Radio.
I'm sorry, Victor Robert.
Yes, sir.
You did a wonderful job. Keep up and shut down this country. That is the only way.
Yes, sir.
Brown would go. They have 5 years.
Yes, sir.
They have 5 years, so we have to shut it down.
Have to shut it down.
We have to do that. Preach that and we'll get it. The whole country is behind you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Well, we have 2 minutes, so we will just allow the calls to run for the next. A matter of fact, Koki, I think we have about 1 minute and some seconds.
Yeah.
So, Koki, get a tune standby for me, Koki. Get a tune at your choice. Welcome, caller.
Good night, Mr. Roberts, and
Yes.
good night, Koki.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
You know, last night I listened to Dr. Munilal talking about the hospital wing in Port Spain,
Yeah.
how it collapsed.
Yeah.
Up come this man they call Noel Garcia. And you know what remind me of, Mr. Roberts? You see the inquiry, how do you call it? The inquiry then into Las Alturas.
Yeah, the inquiry, yeah. Go ahead.
You saw it?
No, I ain't see it.
Well, boy, they catch this man named Noel Garcia lying, and he decided to get up and walk out the investigation. And they tell him, you can do what you want, because I don't want to stay too long, because he and the Prime Minister were part and parcel of Las Alturas Phase 2, and they say they were not there. When they leave was Dick Ford, and somebody show a tape where he and Noel Garcia walking through the 2 buildings. They could lie, boy, Mr. Roberts. And here we have this next man lying again. Go Noel Garcia. Noel Garcia always over 90 or close to 90 years. Always think about God when all the lying, boy. The man lift up last night. The man lift up a piece of paper from Shanghai Construction. Always want to send your lawyer after him. I am telling you, Noel Garcia and the Prime Minister, always go for it. Don't bluff. Always go for it. Send a lawyer for Munilal to answer for what you said last night.
Thank you, caller. We have to go. So Trinidad and Tobago, join tomorrow at 6:15, and then we will cross over to Douglar Politics. God bless you. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Victor Roberts, I'm out.
This motion today. Before I begin, Madam President, and you will notice that I'm sniffling. I can assure you that it only happens when I'm in the coolness of the chamber, but out of an abundance of caution, I will keep my mask on. Thank you. Madam President, where do I begin? My perspective on this issue is, of course, a little different from everyone else's, having been intimately involved in the 2 cases that have been cited here, or I should say misquoted here sometimes, and that is Harriet Maraj versus the Attorney General, and the recent case of Ravi Balgobin Maraj versus the Attorney General. Before I start to correct all that has been said about those 2 matters most erroneously, and I have to say it is really disappointing to hear the law as set out in judgments from distinguished judges, and as someone said, judgments which have brought so much clarity, both of them statutory interpretation claims brought by litigants, public interest litigants, to correct missteps made in the appointments processes, But before I get to those things, I just want to raise some issues with respect to the present order that is here before us for debate, and this issue of seniority. I have to congratulate Senator Mark for giving a very thorough and comprehensive overview of the issues that relate to this matter. And I think that it is only down to the benefit of this country and the public at large to have these matters ventilated, because they must understand. And somebody, I think it was just the previous speaker, said that when we had all this couture taking place last year, right, the public was left in a state of utter confusion as to what exactly was happening with the appointment of a commissioner of police. Now, many appointments are made in the public service, but none of them attract as much attention as the appointment of a commissioner of police. And there's a reason for that. And it has to do with the amount of power that this person has and the amount of the impact that they can have on the lives of ordinary citizens. So the independence, the neutrality, the transparency of that appointment process is of fundamental importance to the average man and woman in this country. And that is why these orders that set out those processes are so important, and it is why we have to examine them very carefully. And we do not want even more missteps being made, because I don't think I need to remind anybody of the disaster that we had on our hands last year based on bad legal advice, bad drafting, a misunderstanding of the Constitution and how subsidiary legislation works by many persons in government and those appointed by the government in the Service Commission, where we had for the first time in our history no commissioner of police. Do we want to send this country back down that road? I do not think so. Nobody wants that. Not government, opposition, nobody. That was a disaster. And so if we want to avoid these disasters, we have to very critically examine these orders that are here before us. Minister Rambarat made reference to the fact that seniority has been removed over time and whittled away. And that is true to some extent. But even after the 2006 amendments, these very significant amendments that really changed the whole role and function of the Police Service Commission and remove the power of veto, although some people, through their actions have basically given themselves back the power of veto. Essentially, that's what happened when a merit list goes missing. You give yourself back the power of veto. But nevertheless, even after the 2006 amendments, in 2007, the qualification and selection criteria orders that were made still made an allowance for the Service Commission to consider seniority and experience. So, for example, in legal notice, let me give you the number. It is 165 of 2007. And again, I think this exact clause was replicated in 2009, where they set out the selection process criteria and so on. There was an allowance made for people who did not have the criteria, and it capped the marginal note to this order. It talks about serving officers. And it said where an officer does not hold the qualifications stipulated under paragraph 2A, but meets the core criteria listed in paragraph 3 and has 20 years experience or more in the police service, he shall nonetheless be considered as a candidate for appointment. Now, this deals with, of course, the appointment of a permanent commissioner of police. But you see, even back then, it was recognized that experience goes a long way in the police service. And as someone who has worked very closely with the police in my previous incarnations and still interacting with officers in court every day and so on, I could tell you there's a lot of value to be placed on experience and seniority in the police service. And the removal or the less weighting that is given to seniority, to me, really doesn't always produce the best candidate. I agree that sometimes the reliance solely on seniority may mean that the person who has just been sitting in the chair for the longest period of time eventually gets elevated. But you have to have a balance. Because in something like policing, there's nothing teaches you policing, you know. There's nothing that teaches you how to be a police officer other than field work, investigative work. You see that man who sit down there writing in station diary, like Sergeant Adams and them? That, you have to be able to do that to be able to learn how to do police work and how to do investigative work. So there's a lot to be said for seniority, and I think that it was recognized even after 2006 that you must give some allowance for seniority. Because what you have happening, and I say this without fear of contradiction, is that there are officers, young officers, who might have about 10 years experience or something like that, but they have more degrees than all of us in here put together because they've spent 10 years on study leave. They move from one study leave to the next study leave. They work in administrative office positions within the TTPS, the chief clerk's office or one of those offices where it's basically paper pushing. They never have field experience, but they're studying. They are studying. They take, there's a program at Cipriani College, and I have nothing against people studying, do not get me wrong, but that emphasis solely on qualifications now, and that greater emphasis being placed on qualifications really sometimes does a disservice in terms of selecting the best person for the role for promotion, and it will ultimately filter into the roles of Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner of Police. I want to point out one very important thing when it comes to this particular order of 277. Clause 3 deals with the process of the appointment of Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner. And there's no reference there to seniority and so on because there is a process, there's a process that they have to go through for grading and so on. They get the applications, they do the assessment, they do the vetting, medical, security vetting reports, all of this, and then the commission does its merit list. What is a merit list? After you go through the entire process, you rank your candidates. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When you come to acting appointments, what Clause 4 really says is that when you're dealing with acting, they establish and maintain an order of merit list, which shall list, and now in the amended version, officers who hold these particular offices. So I believe there are 3 deputy commissioners of police, and I think in terms of ACPs, there are about 8 or so. So you have essentially 8, 9, 10, 11 people who will be on this list, and they have to possess the qualifications and experience required for the appointment of commissioner of police. So if they all possess these criteria listed in Clause 3, they make the list. So out of the 11, let's say you have 7 of them that have this, and they are currently holding the office of DCP or ACP. Well, how do you rank those 7 people? There's no interview process. There's no process for medical. There's nothing in Clause 4 that says they have to go through security vetting. There's nothing in Clause 4 that says they have to do an interview. There's nothing in Clause 4 that says these people who will be eligible to act, whether as a DCP acting as commissioner or an ACP to act as DCP, that they have to go through that promotional assessment process. So how do you rank them, if not by reference to seniority? It is as simple as that, you know. And yes, we're talking about other things and about the motives and how it was changed in the middle of the night and the dead of night and all of that happens, but on a common sense level, on a practical level, do you know what you're going to have? You are going to have anywhere between 1 and 11 names who meet the criteria set out in Clause 4.2, yes, Clause 4.2, holding an office, possessing the qualifications and experience, and the commission will then just randomly choose a name. And what you will have is out of them, those 11 people, when one is chosen to act, the other 10 could challenge it. Because on what basis? What is the basis upon which they will make that decision, if not seniority? So the day that the Police Service Commission have the names of all the people who meet the criteria in 4, 2, A and B in front of them, I mean, what's it going to be, a pick-a-pan? You'll pick one out of the hat? They will just have to choose one of the 11. And the other 10 can go and file judicial review. They will challenge it. They will want to know on what basis, because how else do you rank these people? So from removing seniority, I perhaps I will give the benefit of the doubt that perhaps it was not thought out properly. We've seen many pieces of legislation, particularly when it comes to the selection process for a commissioner of police, not well thought out when they are made. They need to stop drafting in the middle of the night and fixing things in the middle of the night. But clearly, nobody thought about how the Police Service Commission is to differentiate between one and the other. The answer is found, and as Senator Mark rightly said, in other regulations that deal with the appointment of public officers. You look at seniority. That is like the tiebreaker that exists in the public service regulations, and he quoted it. I'm not going to waste time going back and say it. He quoted it for you here today. So I'm asking members of this House from a common sense perspective. Forget the bacchanal, the politics, the lacqueray, all of those things. From a common sense perspective, do you think this thing can work? Or will it create a situation where you could have more litigation coming forward, where you could have a service commission having to tell itself, well, out of necessity, I might choose this one or that one, where you could have members of the Police Service Commission actually, being challenged on their discretion and how they exercise that discretion and so on, being forced to account before the court. I cannot tell, if you do a search, a simple search on the Judiciary, the Law Library website or anywhere about the amount of times police officers have challenged merit lists and appointments and promotion lists and so on. I mean, it is never ending. I remember a time I was involved in a matter where there was an injunction blocking an injunction, or there were two sets of injunctions blocking different groups of people who wanted to be promoted in the police service. It was a total and complete mess. And the last thing you want to do, and I say this over and over and over, the last thing we want to do as a parliament is to allow a piece of law, be it primary or subsidiary legislation, to go out there into existence and create havoc, create circumstances ripe for litigation, and, when it comes to something as important as our police service, to create uncertainty in the minds of the public as to whether or not there is some sort of ulterior motive involved here. Because you see, and I know that the government and the government bench and speakers and so on, the ministers and the Attorney General will say that, we are like conspiracy theorists. We always think that there's something, some bad intention, and this is just, we're trying to simplify, and this is for the good of the country and all of that. But take this debate in its context of what has transpired. This is the third time this government is trying to tinker with the process. The last two times, they had to go before the court, and I don't know how the state taking a position, having litigation brought against it, having a judgment striking out portions of the legislative instrument that the state produced, being ordered to pay the litigants cost, could still stand here today and heap praise upon themselves for the order was deemed constitutional. I don't know that members opposite understand the meaning of the word ultra-virus. If something is held to be ultra-virus, it means that it is beyond the scope of the power of the maker of the decision. It is out with the parameters of the Constitution. It is unconstitutional. to say that the court upheld the constitutionality of the order because certain aspects of the orders remain, that is misleading. It is misleading the public, the parliament, and anybody else who does not know. But I drafted that Harriet Maraj claim, and every single point that we raised about aspects of that 2015 order that we said violated the Constitution, violated the Central Tenders Board Act. Every single aspect of it was upheld by the court. And so they amended the order. They literally, if you look at the judgment, draw lines through all the offending parts of it. So I don't know where the Attorney General, I don't know, I think the fireworks is affecting him. I don't know how he comes to this parliament and tries to avoid and the reality. The reality of the situation is that on 2 occasions, these orders were found to be offensive. Whether you use the word superfluous or not, the point is, based on the advice of the Attorney General and his considered legal opinion, given through the media, we had the acting appointment of Mr. Griffith revoked. So the importance of this, and whether or not the government is doing this thing properly, and whether or not this order will stand up to scrutiny, it must be at the forefront of everyone's mind. It must be at the forefront of our mind and any right-thinking citizen of this country, because we've gone through the experience twice, and we do not want to go through it a third time. So again, anybody to tell me, how do you differentiate those candidates when you remove seniority from the requirement contained in Clause 4 of Order Number 277 of 2011? I don't intend to use all of my time, but I just want to wind up saying one thing. It is recognized in the police service regulations, which, unlike these orders that are made in the middle of the night and amended in the middle of the night by the government and take effect right away, and would be the law in effect unless the opposition brings a motion to negative. The regulations, the police service regulations, are subject to affirmative resolution. They have to be approved by the Parliament. And that, in my respectful view, gives it a lot more validity and force. It went through that process in 2007, when they were passed. And one particular provision, very important provision in those regulations, that deals with conduct of officers. It talks about the officer in his 2nd division who is in charge of the station and his responsibilities and so on for a station and the district, and the conduct and efficiency of all the officers under his charge. A very serious duty. I don't know if anybody ever observed when you walk into a police station and you see the notices on the wall and things, and it says SDOIC, 2nd Division Officer in Charge. That is a very important position that you hold in any particular police station. Whoever is that SDOIC, he's the man on the ground. He is the man or woman to make daily operational decisions in a particular police station. And let me quote from Regulation 133.4 that says, in the absence of an officer referred to in Subregulation 2, Subregulation 2 speaks about the 1st Division officer who will be responsible for the state of his command and so on, right? And it said, in the absence of the officer referred to in Subregulation 2 or 3, the authority and responsibility of that officer shall devolve upon the next in seniority unless the commissioner otherwise specifically directs. So our police service regulations, drafted, brought to the House, debated, passed, subject to affirmative resolution, recognizes the role of seniority in the TTPS. So I've said a lot about why I think it's important, but here it is. Here it is, right here, written into the police service regulations, of the importance of seniority. The police service is an institution that operates on instructions from seniors. And that senior, when they talk about my seniors, anybody who knows a police officer, I think that one of my colleagues mentioned before on the other side that her father is a police officer. So she would know, you grow up here, my seniors say this, my seniors say that. That is how the police service operates. And seniority is rank, but also, you see that thing they call regimental number? They respect that in the police service. It is the culture of the police service. So it is not just part of the, it is not just a logistical problem for the Service Commission to be able to grade and rank these persons who qualify to act under Clause 4, but it's also, it goes against the grain of what is really the culture of the police service, that seniority matters. So if the government is serious about having a process that can work, having a process that would not be subject to challenge, having a process that will not result in more, and I have to keep using the word because I haven't heard it for such a long time that Senator Diaz and use more couture and bacchanal and just, complete upheaval in our police service, I think they need to give some serious consideration to whether or not it is right to remove seniority as a requirement from this process. I do not at all agree that including seniority is a factor on the discretion of the commission, because you see, right here in this section, you are limiting the persons who the commission can place on that merit list. They must have that particular rank. They must have been promoted to the rank of DCP or ACP to even get onto that list. But the commission must have a way to assess them. It's not whether, who comes number one? When out of the 11 of them that qualifies, you have 7 who qualify to be on this list. How you pick number one? Because you like how he's look? Or because we will have another situation where you will have allegations of political interference and instructions being given, because that is what the country is afraid of. That is what the opposition is afraid of. That is why when a government minister signs an order today and within 24 hours he changes it, the opposition is alerted. We literally, and I think many people in this country literally stopped and said, but is it that whoever was number 1, 2, and 3 on the list didn't meet with the approval of somebody, so they decided to change the order because they really want 5 and 6 to be appointed? These are the types of speculation.
Senator, as much as you're making your statements, and you should have just about 5 more minutes in your contribution, be careful about imputing improper motives in relation to the list and any attempts to do anything to the list.
I'm guided.
Okay, continue.
I'm guided. And my point is that you want to avoid that type of speculation. You want to avoid the feeling amongst the population that there is some nefarious intent. You do not want persons living through the experience that we lived through last year of a clause that was basically what we call in law ad hominem and created an opportunity for an acting appointment for someone being then ruled out of order and superfluous and really unconstitutional, or the actions of the commission pursuant to that order unconstitutional. The same population, the same people following that matter, living through it, you do not want a situation where they have to now question what are the intentions of the government. Is it that there is some intention, and I'm not casting aspersions and I'm not saying it. I like to wait until evidence presents itself, which it has done quite adequately in the past. But in the interim, I have to say that the manner in which this amendment came, the fact that it makes absolutely no sense, and the fact that it is impractical for the purposes for which it is intended, it leans in the direction of making someone believe that there's something amiss and there's some other intention here. So, again, with the greatest of respect to the drafters and those who may have given their advice and opinions on this matter, I say it is unworkable and it ought to be reconsidered. And this legal order ought to be revoked, withdrawn, and some serious consideration given as to how that acting process ought to really take place. Thank you very much.
Senator Dylan Remy.